Hello, hello, everyone. I think we are live and we're looking good. Give it a few seconds here before I get started. All right. So we know that entrepreneurship is on the rise in the US. And our recent workforce confidence index reinforced that entrepreneurship is on the rise because more than half of professionals see themselves going out on their own. This is especially true for Black Americans, as 20% of Black Americans are starting businesses. And it's because of this. And during Black History Month, LinkedIn is celebrating and amplifying the stories of Black business owners and entrepreneurs proudly and wholeheartedly. It's also why we're so lucky to have two industry experts and small business owners and entrepreneurs on with us today to share some of their top tips for launching your business or accelerating growth with your current business. I'm so delighted to have them both on board. And Melinda Emerson and Shei Kokoi, I'd love for you both to give a short introduction, a couple minutes about yourselves for the audience. Melinda, I'll let you start and we'll follow with Shei.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Marissa. My name is Melinda Emerson, but my nickname out in the world is Small Biz Lady. I'm regarded as America's #1 small business expert, and my Small Biz Lady brand reaches over 3 million entrepreneurs each week online through my blog, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, and my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, as well as my own online school, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com and Small Biz Lady University. So we got lots and lots of resources to help people start and grow successful small businesses. And I also work with Fortune 500 corporations that target small business owners. So my marketing consulting firm does B2SMB marketing. So we do customer acquisition, customer retention, content strategy, as well as social media contest strategy. So I've been in business over 23 years. I hail from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am a proud graduate of Virginia Tech, and I have an MBA from Drexel University. So I am so excited to be here for Black History Month and talk about my favorite topic, how to hit it big as an entrepreneur. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shei.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shei Kokoi. For my first name, I just want you to think of Shay plus E, that equals Shei. So a little bit about me. I'm what you would consider a creative entrepreneur, which encompasses me being an entrepreneur in the project management space and outside of it, an educator and an aspiring filmmaker. Now, I have 10 plus years of experience as a project management professional, working on projects that span oil and gas, construction, IT, e learning, and entertainment. I specialize in planning projects strategically and collaboratively while moving them forward for on time delivery. Now, I'm passionate about making complex concepts simple. So, this has led to me creating e learning courses that are currently on LinkedIn Learning. My other interests include options trading, creative writing, video production, and filmmaking. And that's just a short of me. Uh, I would say to be on the lookout. I'm hoping that with the right team, I'll be actually creating my first short film by the end of this year.
Wonderful. So a lot of our audience, they're looking either to how to get started. They're either working a full-time corporate job, they're interested in flexibility, financial security, independence, but they just don't know how to get that side hustle off the ground, or if they should actually take the leap. I'd love, Melinda, if you could share with us what actually spurred you to start your business when you did.
Well, to be honest, I got my dream job when I was 23 years old. And after a year or two of doing it, I hated it. And I was like, I got to figure out something else to do. I was a television producer. I had gotten one of the best jobs of anyone coming out of college in my class. But, you got to be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. So in my case, at 26 years old, I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to be the big story on Action News. So I got to leave. So I literally started my business in the basement of my house. I had a laptop, a fax machine, and a dream, basically. And that was 23 years ago. Now, one of the things I will tell you, though, is that I knew a year before I left my job that I was going to do it. So I started planning. I started getting my finances together. I started paying off debt, even my car. I started working part-time for a business like the one I wanted to start because I knew how to make my widgets, right? I knew how to write scripts and create beautiful videos, but I had no idea how to run a video production company. So what I did was I worked 2 days a week for another production company just so I could learn the ropes, how to do budgeting, how to do contracts, I mean, all the stuff that can take you down. And so I planned my exit. I started my business as a side hustle first, and then after a year, left my full-time job to do it full time. And God has blessed me because I have never had to turn back.
That's an incredible story. As we look at the changing world of work, Shay, tell me, what got you to launch your business?
I think for me, it's a little more something that has kind of been embedded in me since I was young. I grew up in Nigeria for about 13, 14 years. So as far as I can remember, I always had like a tutor stop by after school. So education was always something that was at the forefront. And this led to me like being promoted through different grades and going to boarding school. So a lot of experiences that I've gone through have kind of been teaching me how to be resilient, persistent, things like that. Now, a big part of doing what I do is that both of my parents were entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
My dad owned a print and press in Nigeria, and my mom had a tailoring shop. So these influences were really big and shaped, who I am. Along the way, I've done different little things. So the first leg of my entrepreneur journey was 18. I would, buy like cracked iPhones from eBay. I would fix them, flip them, things like that. And I started learning how to trade around like 21. But as I got into the professional world after college, as in a project management space, about a year into it, I started to kind of get a better feel for things that I'm passionate about and learning, okay, I really teach people how to do things really well. So around 24, I started teaching like friends and people in my community, hosting live sessions, teaching courses on Microsoft Project, Primavera P6, and different things like that. So this was kind of like the beginning of my journey. And over time, I've just kind of built up on that, working similar to Melinda and her suggestion, working full time, but also building on the side things that I'm doing until maybe 2016, I kind of fully fledged out of that and started just doing more things surrounding all the things that I want to do.
That's awesome. So when we were in the green room, we both talked a little bit about marketing and thinking about your product. How does one really conceptualize what their niche is? And once you decide this is exactly what I want to put forth in the market, how did you both start to market that product or service?
Well, I think the thing that you have to think about first is what is your solution? What are you selling? And then you've got to figure out who needs this, like, who is in the market for this. And then the number one thing you have to understand these days is that where does your target customer hang out online? Because no matter what you sell, your first interaction with your client probably is going to be online. So you've got to figure out what platform, and really it should only be one, maybe two, and that's it. I mean, I think a lot of people make mistakes trying to market on 5 6 different social media platforms. Unless you're selling social media marketing services, you do not need to do that. So I think once you figure out where your target customer hangs out online, you need to be there too, and you've got to build credibility, and you build that through consistent content that is always of high quality and value. And you just have to participate and build the relationship. Online, it takes a minimum of 7, but as high as 30 interactions before you can build a trust relationship with someone that you don't know online. So you got to put in the time, put in the work, be consistent, and always figure out how you can position yourself as a resource. And when you do that, you will pull your target customers to you. They will
Mhm.
see you as a resource, as a thought leader, as an expert, and come and find out how to do business with you. And that is really what marketing has turned into. It used to be all about ads, and it still is, but it starts with building that trust relationship first.
Absolutely. And Shay, actually, I have a great question from the audience, and I'd love this event to be very conversational. So please do ask your questions. Um, Someone asked, how do you identify what your side hustle could be? Shay, I'd love to have you share a bit about that.
I like that question. I think it fits within kind of how I've built my path. I think for one, the biggest thing for me, especially starting off, I really believe in doing some introspection around yourself. So I think that to align your passion in your career, you have to know who you are. So thinking, through some things, that you've experienced growing up, certain things that you may be good at, what type of skills do you use to be successful, both personally and professional every day. So I think those are some questions that you need to ask yourself and kind of do some introspection surrounding these things. These will really help you find out what are you good at, what your niche is and how you can push forward on that. And from that point, you could even use some of the steps that Melinda just mentioned, especially with finding your network and building that leverage to leverage your network, building the relationship. This is very important because I think sometimes we think to take a lot, but you want to practice giving sometimes more than you take.
I couldn't agree more. I think anytime someone calls me and tells me that they want to start a business, the first thing I say is, whoa, have you done a life plan? Have you figured out what you want and why you want it? Because sometimes you might just need to go get another job, right? It might just be that you just have an awful boss. Because if you think, getting out here and putting your shingle out and saying open for business is an easy job, you might start working for a crazy person in it too, right? So you really want to make sure that you do your homework, that you know what you're good at. And sometimes you might be trained as an accountant, but you hate being an accountant. And that's okay. You can have to figure out what your other passions are. But then after you decide, you go through your personal assessment. As Shay said, your personal goals and your professional goals have to align. Otherwise, there are all kinds of things that will sabotage your entrepreneurial journey. But then the next thing you've got to figure out once you get there is how you're going to pay for it. Because most businesses, particularly businesses started by people of color, are bootstrapped, which means the money's going to come from your right or your left pocket to start your business, because banks do not loan money to start a business. They don't even want to loan money to existing businesses. So I want you all to get really clear about evaluating your lifestyle and whether or not you can afford to become an entrepreneur, because the first thing you're going to have to do is cure your addiction to your paycheck. So I want all of you to think about this. If you're a single person, you should be saving 30 to 40% of every paycheck. If you are a married couple, you guys need to figure out how to live off of one salary and bank the other one so that you have some resources available to put into a new business, but also have an emergency savings for your household, because stuff still happens. I mean, the first year that I started my business, my air conditioner in my house broke on the hottest day in July, right? This stuff happens. And so you still want to make sure that you have a pot of money set aside to manage your household or any household emergencies.
Absolutely. And you talked about curing yourself from your paycheck. I think that's so important. And what's interesting is 50% from our LinkedIn research, a study we ran in December and January on the Black entrepreneurs' experience in the US, we found that nearly 50% of Black entrepreneurs who also have full-time jobs feel that remote work has allowed them to pursue their new business venture freely, but more than 40% of them who have full-time jobs have not told their company that they have this side hustle or this side business. And I'm curious, why is that? And so if we're trying to separate ourselves from the 9 to 5 and cure ourselves from the paycheck, but we're too afraid to tell our boss, hey, I'm interested in going out on my own, what are your tips for sharing that and being honest with the people, your manager and the people you work for?
I personally think you should keep it a secret. I don't think everybody at your job needs to know. I think that you have to be careful as a person of color in corporate America that you're not perceived as somebody that's not all in or not focused, right? And you just don't want to give someone an opportunity to discount you or not look at you for a new opportunity within the company because they know you got this side hustle, right? So, I mean, you want to be very careful anyway who you tell about your new business dream, because a lot of people who are not entrepreneurs do not understand entrepreneurship. And they're going
Mhm.
to be like, well, why do you want to do that? You know what I mean? So you don't need any negativity, because starting a business is hard. You're going to hear no a lot more than you're going to hear yes. So you don't want to invite the no's to dinner, right? You don't want to do that. So I say, keep your business, unless you're starting a business that competes directly with your employer. There's no reason to share that. Most people are starting online businesses anyway, and you can do those on your evenings and weekends. You have flex time, or you can have a 4-day work week or whatever. You can manage both. And but I would keep it a secret. I would not share it.
Maybe an opportunity for corporations to elevate their entrepreneurs and find opportunities for people to explore their passions internally or externally. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, Shay, as well.
I completely agree 100%. In a sense, I think there's a stigma with in the corporate world, especially of not being able to do your full time job and having a side hustle. So this kind of creates sometimes a boundary on, like Melinda mentioned, potential promotions that could, happen for you, where you're kind of held back in line for things that opportunities that you could really see. So I think, for one, understanding the organization you're working for is a big key. So maybe you're working at a Google or something like that, where they kind of encourage the type of things.
Mhm.
So the environment may allow some flexibility in speaking about it. But for example, I work in, on projects that are construction, projects and things like that. I mean, I remember a few years ago, my last company that I worked for, I went to my boss and was like, hey, I didn't really go into details, but I'm just like, pretty much, I think I would like to work a hybrid, scenario. This is around 2015 or so. I like to kind of work a hybrid schedule, just sort of to take care of some things off of work. But I feel that it will really help me out with, my job. And that was they were like, no, that's not even an option. And I mean, we're in 2022 today, where that's like the norm. Everybody is like putting out remote job opportunities, hybrid opportunities. So this is, just a few years ago where things were backwards. So I think it's just, understanding the environment and organization you're in is first step
Mhm.
before even taking that step to share anything. And like Melinda mentioned, a lot of times you sort of want to hone your skill, not in secret per se, but on staying low key and kind of building up to a place where you feel comfortable, starting to share these ideas or things that you're doing with people. Because sometimes when you start too early and you start to invite the no's to your table, that
Mhm.
start to, become all you see, and you don't even take steps to move further and do things that you would love to do. So it's about honing your skills and building from there
Keeping that positive energy at all times.
all the
I
time.
do want to get into funding questions and just thinking about capital as folks grow their business. But let's get into some nitty gritty. You both talked a bit about, what's an LLC versus an S corp versus a sole proprietorship. If you're someone like me who has public relations clients on the side every now and again, what would you do if you have a full-time job? And which of these would you choose?
Well, first of all, if you are doing business, you need to incorporate your business. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, it protects you legally. I don't want somebody to come take your cat and your dog, and, because you made a mistake on a project. And a lot of people sue, and they don't have to have a real good reason to sue. So you want to be incorporated. Now, whether you become an LLC or an S corp is really a decision for you and your tax accountant, maybe your lawyer, to have a conversation about. But you do need to be incorporated, especially if you have a job and maybe you're a single person and you don't have a lot of tax deductions. Having a business gives you write-offs, which will lower your tax liability. So it's always a benefit to actually incorporate a business. Now, a sole proprietorship is just that. It's a sole proprietorship. You use your social security number, but you have no legal protections whatsoever. So if something happens, someone sues you, all of your personal assets are liable. So I never tell people to just, wing it, go on your social security number. Nope. Incorporate a business. It takes you, you know, 45 minutes on the internet. The IRS can give you an employer identification number in about 5 seconds if you go to their irs.gov website. So you want to be legit. You want to be a real business. You don't want to be getting paid on Cash App and Venmo. You really want to be, a real business so that you can qualify for different kind of grants and programs and things out there. And you'll never be able to do that if you don't have your incorporation paperwork, you don't have a fictitious name registration with your state, you don't have a business bank account, you can't apply for all these grants and all these great programs that are out here supporting businesses.
Anything to add there, Shay?
No, I think Melinda said it right. She was giving me some lessons prior to our call anyway.
Mhm.
One thing I would say on the sole proprietor situation is if you do some steps ahead, you are possibly able to, do like some things like the EIN and creating your business name. But essentially, eventually, you have to incorporate yourself. The main benefit that I do see of the incorporation is the liability aspect of it, especially, you don't want to get in trouble. I work in so many projects and I'm a sole proprietor, so I get paid under Cooks and Co. But it's DBA, still my name, Shay Kukoyi. So, knock on wood, if anything was to happen, I am liable for it personally, and not only the company, it's me individually. So, I will go with Melinda's advice here and say, if you can, incorporate your business as well. Yes.
So when do you start to think about funding as like the next step? If you've got your side hustle going, it's feeling like a real solid and viable business, when does capital and funding come into mind? We know that 43% of Black entrepreneurs believe having access to funding is key to their business growth, yet only 1 in 4 Black businesses have received funding from our study. So with that in mind, when do you take the next step to think about capital and funding? And then I'd also like to ask about what has happened recently due to the pandemic, the PPP loan, and how that played out for a lot of Black and Brown entrepreneurs.
Well, I'll take the first part of your question. When it comes to funding, most people are funding their businesses with their own personal resources, home equity, a loan from their 401k. Really, part of the reason why you need to pay down your credit cards before you start your business is because you're going to end up using your personal credit cards in the first year or two of your business until you can establish business credit. Typically, banks will not even look at you for a line of credit until you've been in business for 2 years. And when you think about a line of credit, think about it this way: a bank will only loan you 10% of your gross revenue. So if you've done 100,000 revenue, that means at most you're probably going to get ten to $15,000 if you're lucky. And that's not a lot of money. So I want to really frame this so that people understand that the first couple of years of your business growth is going to be based on your personal assets you have to invest in your business and your clients, right? Who you can bill for service. And that's how most people bootstrap their business.
How about you, Shay? When did you start thinking about funding?
I think for me, similar to what Melinda said, it's always been out of pocket, building up until that. I think, especially as a solopreneur myself, it's been tough to go to a bank per se and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and they want to give me funding for it. If you're not coming with potential, um, $1 million company plan or something like that, they're not really trying to put any kind of equity into that kind of business. So, for someone like myself, that I'm an entrepreneur, especially a creative entrepreneur space, that's usually not an option. So, essentially, this is where leveraging your job comes into play. So, some of those suggestions that were mentioned earlier, from saving your income, having money on the side, and something that is big for me is just leveraging your network. So collaborating with organizations, individuals that actually are having outreach to the audience that you want to build. So when it comes to funding, I think going into the PPP loan, for example, until this PPP loan opportunity came, so many solopreneurs, both Black and Brown or just outside the community, really didn't have the opportunity to be able to get these kinds of fundings. They were just given out randomly.
Mm,
You know, I mean, not randomly, the pandemic happened, but these
yeah.
fundings were made available to businesses that couldn't get this kind of opportunities prior. So it was almost a blessing in disguise, but also highlighted some key issues that, you know, we need to address. I think just as people as well as the government needs to address as well in being able to uplift businesses, especially small businesses, solopreneurs, and things like that.
Well, and let me just give you a statistic. So, 96% of Black women owned businesses in the United States are solopreneurs. Well, if
Mhm.
you were a solopreneur without employees and you didn't pay yourself with a payroll check,
Mhm.
you couldn't apply for a PPP loan because they demanded that you upload a 941. You also had to be incorporated. You had to have a business bank account, right? So, this goes back to the stuff we just talked about having all your paperwork in order. So people who, had been kind of operating as a sole proprietorship, not filing business taxes, all this kind of stuff. Well, all of this came back to bite people when the PPP loans came out. And
Mhm.
then when the EIDL loans came out, a lot of people were blocked from getting those loans because of credit scoring. And
Mhm.
so, if you were in the middle of the pandemic and hadn't been making any money for 6 or 7 months, of course your credit was diminished. I mean, so it was just insanity that the government decided that that was the litmus test they were going to use to decide who could get support. But I really think that that's why so many corporations jumped in to help, with grant funding, but there still wasn't enough. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so much need, so many different types of businesses. But I think the one good thing that came out of the PPP and just really the pandemic was it forced people to get legit, like to get their
Mhm.
paperwork in order. No more hookups, humbugs, any of that. No, you got to be a legit business owner with a business bank account, filing some business taxes, and not looking like your business. There's a lot of times people will file business taxes and they purposely make themselves look like they didn't make any money because they don't want to pay taxes. But the
Mhm.
problem with that is then something comes around where your benefit is determined by what your revenues
You're
were.
made,
And
yes.
so you can really hose yourself with those kind of strategies. I mean, the blessing about making money is that you can pay your taxes. So
Yes.
definitely everybody should just, go legit,
Legit.
incorporate, get an accountant that you talk to on a monthly basis, not just at tax time, and your things are going to go a lot smoother for you as you try to grow and scale your business.
Wonderful. I'd like to ask, if you're wondering how to create a network for the first time, we talked a little bit about networking, and we found that 1 in 3 Black entrepreneurs find their networks via online communities like LinkedIn. How did you both get started with building that community? Because I feel like the community also starts to potentially become your first and best customers and most loyal customers. So what are some of your strategies for building that network?
Well, one of the best strategies that I know is to find out what the trade association is in your industry and join the local chapter, join the national chapter, find out if there is a group on LinkedIn of these people or a group on Facebook or anything else. There's all these groups people have. So you want to find your industry association so that you can get information on the latest and greatest trends and technology affecting your industry. The second thing you want to do is start physically going to networking events. But the number one thing you should do after any networking event is go connect with people on LinkedIn. I have to tell you, I have over 16,000 direct contacts on LinkedIn because when I go meet someone and you give me your business card, the next thing I'm doing is checking and connecting with you on LinkedIn. And if I can't find you on LinkedIn, that's not good
Mhm.
because you have to understand that 80% of all professionals in the world have a LinkedIn account. So if you don't have one, that doesn't make you look very professional.
I agree.
And I
Shay.
think, oh, sorry, Marissa. I think to add to what Melinda said, the biggest key, I'll give personal examples, are definitely finding organizations and individuals that already, have the audience that you're trying to reach. So for me, building a network is very key in just building your business or your entrepreneurial journey. For one, for example, with me training, uh, initially when I used to train uh, back in like 2013, 2014, I would actually create flyers, going to like tax uh, shops and things like that, and put my flyers around. But as I kind of grew in the business aspect of things, I started collaborating with organizations like PMI, AGC, different organizations in the project management space and in the construction space, as well as oil and gas space, where I would offer an opportunity for them to collaborate with me, where we offer training to their members and had a split opportunity. So the biggest key is being able to propose ideas, think outside the box, especially, and as I mentioned earlier, give, within this opportunity. Sometimes, a lot of times, we're just asking for stuff, but what are you bringing to the table? What are you offering within your proposals and things like that? And so I think that's a big key, is finding people who have walked the path also prior
Mhm.
to you, getting some mentorship in those aspects. It doesn't have to be in person per se. You could also study somebody's work to see who has done some things prior and sort of follow that model as well. And lastly, I think pretty much everything combined together is using all of this resources together to actually leverage your network, leverage organizations. I keep saying it all the time, but that's been the biggest key of my success for me. Collaborating with individuals outside of your network as well is also a big key.
I would also just add that, it's a lot about recommendations and referrals. When you
Mhm.
first start out in business, the first 30% of your customers are going to come from people who know you or someone who's been referred from somebody that knows you. So it's really important for you to spend, I'm a big fan of 12 months before you even start your business, going around and reconnecting with people,
Mm.
reaching out to your college classmates that you hadn't talked to in 10 or 15 years. The last thing you want to do, though, is reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in 5 years and tell them how to buy from you. That's not what you want to do. You want to actually strategically build up your network before you need them. And then when people find out you started a business, people will think about ways they can help you. But you don't want to be transactional. You want to be sincere and authentic as you are building your relationships and reconnecting with folks.
Love that. It is so true. And I love the idea of using the first 12 months to reconnect with people you knew in your community just before you start your business, because you will have already kind of created that network and they're primed and ready to talk to you.
It's called friend raising. You got to kind of warm your network back up.
I love that, fringe raising. So we've got about 15 minutes left, 15 minutes left, a little less than that. And I'd love to take a few questions from the audience. And I got some good ones. The first was around scaling your business. If you're a service-oriented business, how do you scale?
Well, that's a big question.
That's a very broad one.
It's a little bit hard for me to say, not knowing the type of business it is. But if you're looking to scale, one of the number one things you want to do is figure out how you can generate long-term contracts. Because if you can develop long-term contracts, you can go to a bank and borrow money based on a long-term contract, and that'll help you expand your team. You also, if you're looking to scale your business, you have to make sure that you have processes and systems in your business so that your business can actually run without you. If you still touch every dollar that you make, that's a problem. And so you want to make sure that you have other people in your business, number one, thinking about how your business makes money. So you do need to make sure that you have an outside salesperson or a sales consultant that's working on sales other than you. But you also need to make sure you have operations in your bench so that you can make sure that customers can be called on and handled without you having to touch everything. That is how you scale your business. You scale your business by working yourself out of all of the day-to-day operations of a business.
I completely agree. I think that's the biggest key is stepping outside of having to do or handle everything. So learning how to delegate is a big
Mhm.
key, and it's tough. I think especially for entrepreneurs or business owners in the early phases, or even going through in intermediate phases as well. You can't let go of things because you've been kind of operating everything. So I think the biggest key is learning how to delegate, even if you don't have your own in-house team per se, finding
Mhm.
individuals that may do these things on contract for you, and and just doing that. Like I create courses on my own at the very moment. So I work with instructional designers outside. I work with video editors. So individuals like that. If I have to do all of these things, I'll probably go crazy. So
Mhm.
I think it's that's definitely a big key.
I love that. There's a question around relying on loans versus credit. What is the consensus around building business credit as opposed to relying on loans?
Well, even if you build business credit, you're going to use that business credit to get a business loan. So I don't know that one is different than the other, but I do think it's very important for you to build business credit. There's something called a paydex score, which is your what your business credit score is called. You do need to definitely, if you're going to be doing business with corporations or the federal government, you should go and get a Dun and Bradstreet number. And Dun
Mhm.
and Bradstreet is really the organization that helps you build up your business credit. They check in with your vendors and make sure you pay on time and all that kind of stuff. And they build up your paydex score. So no, it's absolutely worth building up business credit because eventually in your business, you don't want to have to sign personal guarantees for everything. And you will do that until you have business credit. So it's very, very important. As soon as you can, you want to apply for one of the business credit cards. And so that you can, but don't run up a whole bunch of stuff. I want you to use it, pay it, use it, pay it, right? Because you're trying to build credibility and build up that business credit score. So those are definitely things. And certainly you do want to deal with your bank as soon as you can. You do want to apply for a line of credit.
Mhm.
Oftentimes they want these lines of credit to be SBA guaranteed. And just
Mhm.
know that it takes longer dealing with a bank. It typically takes a bank anywhere from 2 to 3 months to approve a loan or approve a line of credit. So borrow money before you need it. When you
Mhm.
get a big contract, that's when you want to go in and start talking to the bank about your future needs. You don't want to wait until you're on the ropes about to miss payroll to be calling the bank talking about I need some help. That's the wrong time because they really don't want you when you need help, right? So you want to just be strategic about your banking relationship and make sure that they know what's going on with your business so that you can have someone in that bank that can personally vouch for you.
And I know there are different types of lines of credit. So there's going to the bank, but aren't there also ways to access lines of credit through vendors like an Amazon or other institutions? And which of those would you recommend folks start with?
Uh, it really all depends. You just want to make sure that the interest rate is reasonable. There's hard money lenders out here that will do, lines of credit or what we call, sort of like factoring and invoicing. You just have to make sure that you know your numbers well enough to take the hit, right? Because nobody loans money for free. So if you're going to factor an invoice, that means 10 to 12% of that invoice is going to the factoring company. Do you have enough margin in your invoice to take that hit? When you're dealing with hard money lenders, you could be anywhere from 29, 30 to 45% interest, and they're going to take money out of your account daily or weekly to get their money back. So you have to make sure that you know exactly how you're going to turn that loan into more money quickly because I've seen a lot of businesses get in trouble going for, hard money lenders and people like that. In terms of the lending that you can get through a PayPal, through Amazon, basically those guys are willing to lend you money because they see what's coming through your account because of all the transactions you're doing. And that's still not a lot of money. Certainly, if you're desperate, certainly you want to do that, but you want to establish, access to money multiple places so that you don't ever get desperate. I just do not like funders that give out money and then want to automatically debit your account weekly for repayment. I don't
Mhm.
like that. And so you just want to watch things like that because that's a great way to put a lot of pressure on your own cash flow.
Shei, question for you going back to delegating. Delegating is tough, even when you have a staff. What is the key to letting go?
Um, I think the key to letting go is first identify what you are good at within your business. So
Mhm.
and what you love to do. So I think, for example, with the things that I do, I don't like marketing. I don't like being involved in marketing. I don't like touching it. I don't even like discussing it.
Yeah.
So, so I think is finding out how you can leverage, either opportunities or individuals that you want to work with either on a contract basis or in house to do some of these duties for you. So some people don't like data entry and things like that, or working on their accounting and things like that. So the first step is understanding what within your business you love to do and are willing to do, and what are some of the things that you feel you don't need to have, your hands all in the cookie jar for it, and being able to identify those things so that you can start to identify individuals that can help, leverage and take care of those things for you. So I will say that, and I mean, Melinda, if you want to add to that as well.
Well, I would just say that, delegating is scary. And I can remember the first time I let someone else write a script in my business other than me. I remember being like, oh no, can they do it? And as it turns out, they did it better than me. And so, what I will tell you is that once you start delegating, you'll be like, why did it take me so long to start delegating? Right. So you really have to make sure that you're focused on what I call queen bee or king work, right? So you need to figure out what is the most value for your time. Is it writing scripts? Is it putting your own data entry into QuickBooks? I bet it isn't. So you really want to make sure that you're focusing on sales, talking to customers, following up with customers, trying to keep your customers. Because by the way, it's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go out and get another one, right? So
I love that.
I want you to really focus on your most high valued activities. And that will make it very easy to delegate.
Yes.
Such golden gems. One person asked, how important is it to have a social media presence, whether organic or paid?
It's everything now. Social media is the number one sales channel. If you do not have a social media presence, you're just missing out on all these customers that you could have globally. Now, again, you don't need to be on every social media site. You just need to be on one or two, and they should be the ones where your niche target customer spends most of their time online.
I agree with that because I feel for me, I haven't had social media since college. I haven't had Instagram, Twitter, any of those things. But the one platform that I know that I do have most of my opportunities or work relationships on is LinkedIn. So that's
All
the only
day,
place you're going to catch me
all
on.
day.
So so I definitely do agree. You need to find that one or two social media platform. If you're creative, you may need to be on some of these other platforms as well. But if it's business oriented, you need to find what connects you with your audience.
We love to hear that at LinkedIn, of course. So, question going back to having the courage to launch and to go out on your own, being an entrepreneur and working for an employer full time. When do you decide it's time to go full time?
Okay. Now, it takes 12 to 18 months for a small business to break even. That does not mean this business is throwing off enough money to replace your corporate salary. So you want to be very, very careful about your timing to, leave your job. I am not somebody that is ever going to give you advice that I think you should quit today to start your business. I don't believe in that. I believe in side hustling. And the reason why is because it could take you a year or two to learn what you're doing, like to figure out who your niche target customer really is versus who you thought it was going to be. So you do not want to quit your job prematurely because let me tell you something, healthcare insurance is expensive. So you don't want to start paying for that yourself until you need to. So I'm a big fan of about really 12 to 24 months. You really got to make sure that you know how your business makes money and that you have a solid business model and that you have 2 or 3 real steady contracts before you walk away from your corporate job.
So, like the advice I want to say that Melinda gave is really pinpoint exactly what I would say as well. Because on a personal example, when I was looking to reach out to just do my own thing, I actually reached out to a LinkedIn learning author, Bonnie Biafore, about maybe a year before I left my full time opportunity, and she gave me the same exact advice and like, hey, it's a little tough in the initial stages, especially different things like they say, your health insurance is not going to take care of itself. You're going to need dental. No one is paying these things. Also, how do you take care of your rent? There's just so many things that come up when you want to switch over that being an entrepreneur, I think sometimes we tend to look at the end results for some and not
Mhm.
really realize some of the tough process in the initial stages. So I definitely agree on kind of leveraging your job until you get to a point where you feel comfortable, you have a better understanding of who your audience is, and probably already see a good amount of revenue coming in that makes you confident enough to take those steps.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I talk about this in my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. But really, most people don't take a regular paycheck in their business, like every 2 week paycheck, until about year 3 or year 4 in a business.
Mhm.
So you got to make sure that you know how you're going to be able to support yourself and your family financially before you just walk out the door, and give these people the peace sign. You do not want to do that prematurely. And the other thing you might want to think about too is there something in your current company's supply chain that you can start a business doing? Because you could walk out the door of your business with your brand new huge client under your pocket. So you do want to really figure out the business model, your customers, and really how you can build long-term contracts. You want repeat business. Anybody will buy something from you once. It's about getting them to buy it from you over and over again.
So important, so important. We have a couple minutes left, and I just love if you could share, Melinda. I know you've got some courses as well, and Shay, you too. If you want to use the last few minutes here just to talk about your business and your book, I'd love to have you share with the audience.
Sure. Well, my book is Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. It is in its third edition. The latest edition was released just this past fall. And it really has everything you need, not only to just start a business, but actually how to run a business for the first couple years you're in business. And I updated it during the pandemic because I really wanted to give people the advice that I saw was taking people down right and left during the pandemic: how to sell online, how to develop a sales process, how to build a social media brand. These are all of the content and information that is in this book, that's really going to guide you in the right way. How to buy ads online, how to buy ads on Amazon, like all of the stuff that you don't know that is out here potentially to clothesline you is in there. I put it in there. Everything I know about running a successful business is in this book, and it's really going to save. It's a huge learning curve that will shorten your learning curve as you're starting out in business. Now, I have a great course on LinkedIn Learning called How to Become Your Own Boss, but I also have my own online school, Small Biz Lady University, where I offer online marketing classes like how to sell and market online, ultimate guide to email marketing, and social media selling. So if any of you are interested in that, all you have to do is head over to smallbizladyuniversity.com and check us out.
Wonderful.
And for me, first thing I would say is I currently have a course on LinkedIn Learning called Become a Project Management Entrepreneur. So if anyone's looking to kind of get into the project management entrepreneur space, there are a lot of courses, even outside of that, that do help you on learning how to become a project manager or project coordinator and different steps within the industry. I do have a series that I'm working on called Project Management in Real Life, which aligns other courses like aligning your passion with your career or creating your own productivity system that I'm currently working on. So I'm working on those with different authors, and as I mentioned earlier, so hopefully me and Melinda can do something in the future.
Hey,
But
hey, I'm all over it. I'm calling you when we get off here.
so so just be on the lookout for that. On a personal level, do some consulting around just projects. I've worked on different projects from things as creative as albums and things like that. So if anyone has a project that you're currently working on and you just need some guidance, putting some strategic plan together and trying to figure out how to move it forward and bring it to life, feel free to reach out. Check me out on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at.
You can
Yeah,
find them
connect
both.
with us on LinkedIn. We're on there.
The best part is their courses are unlocked through March 14th, along with a bunch of others on how to get your business launched. So check out LinkedIn Learning for a slew of free courses on getting your business launched. Thank you both so much. This was so informational. There was a lot of positive comments in the chat around how helpful this information was. I learned a ton. Hope to have you back another time. Thanks so much.
I'll learn a turn.
I would love
Thank
to
you
come
so much.
back.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.